All right, welcome everyone. This is a Start Deliver webinar, and today we're talking about how to scale customer success in practice. And we have a very special guest with us today, Emilia D'Anzica, calling in from California. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Johan.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and I know a lot of people are, so it's really great. And I've been following you for a long time because you're very active in the customer success space, and you've been speaking on conferences. Latest, I think, the Customer Success Conference, and there's a SaaStr conference coming up also around the topic of customer success. So I think we have that's one of my passions and one of my big interests, and that's what we do with Start Deliver. And I think it's great to have someone else that's really into that. So great to have you.
Thank you.
Just how did you get into customer success from the start? What was the first job or task, or what was that?
I don't think the word customer success existed when I started in the profession. And in fact, I was working as a project manager. But just as this company was going bankrupt, I was at a St. Patrick's Day party, and someone overheard that I was worried that I may have to start looking for a job soon. And he introduced me to the founder of JobBite, Jesper, who is from Denmark. And I suddenly received a call from him less than a week later. And before I knew it, I was the customer-facing full-time account manager. I think that's the name they had given me at the time. Yep. And I did everything from onboarding to training, renewals, adoption, everything under the sun, and even importing resumes, which I never thought I would be doing more of the back end, the operational, but it was actually an amazing experience. I spent almost 6 years at the company and had the opportunity to grow, fail, try new things, learn from it, and then keep growing from there. So it was an amazing way to get into the profession.
Yeah. And so you have like you have some part of the Nordics in you from that time, I guess. Since we're in Sweden and a lot of Nordic companies listening into this, I think so. We have a connection there.
And I lived in Denmark when in my mid-20s I worked for GM Netcom, and I lived and worked in Copenhagen. I got a bike to go to the train station, and I actually took a train to Malmo when I lived there as well. So I've been to your beautiful country.
Great. Super to have you. And today we have, I think, a topic that both of us are really interested in, and I think it's a key topic. We call it scaling customer success, and how you start doing that in practice, because I think a lot of the companies we talk to, they are in one way or the other looking at how can we do more with customer success. One part is they are growing as a company, and then you have more and more customers to look after, and of course you have to scale your organization, and you have to get more tools in and resources and processes and so on. But there's also customers that have limited resources especially these times, and they believe strongly in the customer success, but they want to leverage more, get it out more, get more out of what they have and what they do. So I think it's a really key topic, and of course, wherever you are, if you're a startup or if you're a scale up or if you're a big enterprise, there's always more you can do in customer success. So I think it's a really interesting topic. And to start off, maybe like when do you start feeling pain? When do you notice you have to do something about your present organization or setup? What's your thoughts there? When is it? When does it pain? When does it start hurting?
Yeah, so unfortunately, most of the companies I've worked with in my career as a consultant, which I've been for the past 3 years, it's when there's major pain and the house is on fire, churn is prevalent, and it's time to really tackle the issue. But I think that's the wrong approach, and you should be starting early on to be looking at your customer's health score and identifying what's really working well for your customers that are healthiest, what's
Yeah.
that secret sauce, and
Yeah.
then applying it to other companies. And I'm not saying it will fit everyone, but that gives you an opportunity to segment. On that note, I just want to say though, the reason these companies have these pain points and the house is on fire is because they haven't taken a step back and built that playbook and really looked at, do we have the right people in place to
Yeah.
lead the organization to the next level? Are they too far in the weeds that they can't stand back
Yeah.
and look at the holistic picture of the customer experience? And then do we have the right processes? That's where the playbook comes in for your implementation or launch, your
Yeah.
adoption phase, and then your growth phase. And last is, what systems do we have to support us? So if
Yeah.
you're in a business where your clients are all mobile and they're out in the field, why are you sending them emails? Why are
Yeah.
you asking them for an NPS score or CSAT via email? You aren't going to get the responses of the people who you should be understanding.
Mm.
So that's my answer is
Yeah.
start early with those three simple things. If you can just break it down to, do we have the right people with the right skill set? Do
Yeah.
we have the right processes in place? And what systems do we need to scale? Then you're way ahead of a lot of companies.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think the one of the problems or challenges there is that you usually come from a quite high pace environment where you've been growing and you've been adding a lot of salespeople usually in the beginning, and when the salespeople start generating new customers, there's a lot of things happening in the company. So I think you sometimes especially high growth companies or maybe earlier stage companies, you sort of like, you've been in the beginning, it worked because it was just you managed, but then when the wheel starts turning and you have years 2, 3, 4 of renewals coming up, then there is too much of a momentum on the customer side, and if you haven't set the processes and have people in place, then that's when your house is on fire. I
Exactly.
think a lot of people they don't start that process early enough. I think is one early sign that you probably haven't prepared for your for customer success properly. And say that you're in this middle, your house is sort of on fire, and you want to do these things you mentioned. Where would you start? How would you go about? Do you like do it in a workshop together with the management team, or do you where would you start?
I would start with mapping the customer journey and
Yeah.
understanding all the key roles. One of the roles that I often see missed is your customer operations team, who can
Yeah.
help scale your organization. The other element you want to add to that customer journey is, are you aligned with marketing and the personas they're selling to?
Mm-hmm.
How the sales is selling and creating this relationship, and then the customer success team. I think that's really important, is starting there. Yes, a workshop is great to get all the executives together.
Yeah.
This is what I do. I work with companies and will help them host these type of workshops to really give a good assessment of where's the organization right now and where are the quickest ways, or low-hanging fruit, as
Mm-hmm.
people call them, to make an impact on mitigating churn.
Mm-hmm.
And often it's really looking at, again, do you have the right people, the right systems in place? How are you planning for the future? And leaders often get too far in the weeds and not taking that big step back.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a lot of time to do this. You don't need a bunch of fancy technology to do this. Get a whiteboard, get a piece of paper, and just
Yeah.
map out 1 quarter. What can you have a big impact on in 1 quarter? And then take it from there, because it's those small steps that you take that you can have the biggest impact on your organization.
Yeah. Do you have any like examples of these? What can come up? What are these low hanging fruits that you've seen been like really helping companies making a turn and making a dent into churn rate and so on?
Yeah, so one of the, I'll share a story. One of the clients I worked with, 4 or 5 years old, had never surveyed their customers and they thought things were going well, but they weren't quite sure what was wrong, but they knew something wasn't exactly the way it was going because they weren't growing as quickly, couldn't get as many case studies or references as they wanted. So I launched their first customer survey and had it come from the CEO. And the information that we discovered and being able to benchmark against other companies in their field was eye-opening to them. And they realized that they needed to reset how they were providing an experience for their customers and what the customers really thought of them. So that is one thing that you can do is whether it's customer interviews, getting the pulse of the customer, and then assigning it. So bringing in all of your leaders and assigning based on what is the feedback to different members in your organization. If, for example, you have product and it's a product related issue, having that product leader actually get in front of that customer and hearing it from themselves and bringing them back to the table with, all right, well, what's the outcome of that conversation can be really impactful. And what I recommend with this type of feedback is having it in a central platform in real time. You shouldn't be hiding this from your team. They should be seeing it as well. It helps the entire organization to be centralized in a platform where they can all see this type of information and act on it.
Fully agree. Just two things. It was from the CEO. Was that just to get the better response rate, or put a little bit more weight on the survey? Or
yes, absolutely. Every time I've done this with the CEO's name or if they have a vice president. If I'm working with smaller companies, they may not have one, and I'm acting as head of customer success, helping them hire. It just doesn't look as people will the click-through rate is higher if you have a title. That's just the reality. Yes.
Yeah, no, and I definitely believe a lot in bringing in product and product into the actual feedback from the customers. I mean, this is of course, maybe that's a given, but to show them really this is what's being said, and also maybe show them this is actually how they use the platform. This is what they are actually using, not what we believe they should be using. This is how it looks like, and this is combine that with the feedback. It's usually a big eye opener for the product team. The customer success, they know these things because they talk to the customer a lot. But sometimes you need to have like data behind it to share it internally as well. So I think that's of course a great thing to do. Another thing, I think a lot of companies we talk to, they're looking at what should we automate, and what should we do, what should be where should we put our precious time as a manual time, and where should we try to automate. And I know you have a background from as a VP at WalkMe, so I think that's one of the type of the tools you would look at in that case. What's your thoughts there?
I absolutely am a huge advocate of platforms that are just in time in your application. I believe that with the 5 generations we have in the workforce or using our technology, it's important to provide them an experience that they're comfortable with. Why should they be answering you via email or phone if they simply want to chat with you, or they don't want to talk to anyone or chat with anyone? They just want a guided walk through a platform. I believe that you should be able to have those different experiences for your customers. And that's why I always say, start on a piece of paper or a whiteboard and draw out all of the interactions that you can potentially have with your customers, and where do those interactions potentially lead to churn. So if you're able to do that, then suddenly you are able, on top of that, apply the technology that will help them. And so that's why I'm a big advocate of WalkMe, because most companies do not have 24/7 support, but you will be surprised who is doing an action late at night or in the middle of the morning.
Exactly.
That's what works for them. So you have to meet them where they need you.
No, but I think that's a great thing. Yeah, start mapping out all the interactions, and also maybe look at what type of interactions can be automated, makes sense to be automated, and which ones should be like a manual one. Because if the customer is not in your app, it doesn't matter if you have a great tour or training. Of course, you need to talk to them, and you need to probably do a lot more to get them going again. So depending on where the customer is, of course, and all plays into this as well. So both type of interaction and where the customer is in with you, how much they're using your platform, are they happy, and so on, should also play part in what kind of message you should probably have in this automation.
And just playing off of that, I would recommend, even if you have a highly complex platform that takes 3 to 6, 9 months to implement, I would still challenge the leader who's putting together this this blueprint. Start with the tech touch, and then do the mid touch and the high touch, because chances are a lot of your tech touch, your automation, can actually be applied to your high touch customers. And an example of that is when a sales person closes an opportunity and you have the beginning of a relationship with the customer, that person who signed that deal may not be the person doing the implementation. They're the decision maker. Yeah. So why not automate that kickoff email with a quick video of what is your platform, who are you, and I'm talking 60 seconds, not 10 minutes. Yeah. 60 second video, and then next steps, 1 to 3 max next steps, to get these people excited and to get them really engaged when they're most committed to you during that honeymoon phase. That's an example of automation that's tech touch and can apply regardless of what segment. When I've tested with WalkMe, for example, with video and without, the emails that had the video in the kickoff had the highest click-through rates. So that's why I'm such a big advocate of interacting with your customers with something that has a human element.
That's interesting. Yeah, with you, yeah. No, but that's a great example. Have you seen any, on the other side, have you seen someone doing like automation, like automating in the wrong way, or failing with automation as well, causing more harm than good?
Yeah, the best example I can give of that is when you have a mediocre kickoff and implementation, you know the client's probably not super happy, and then you don't reach out to them again because you're not tracking their health score, and the only time you actually go reach out to them is 30 days before the renewal. Chances are, and I did this to one of my vendors when I was working with the company, is I said, please accept this as our cancellation notice. You're reaching me at the perfect time. It's 30 days before the renewal. And I canceled the contract. I had the CEO reach out to me, very upset, wanting me to change my mind. And at that point, you've already made up your mind. It's too late. So if you're going to, again, if you're going to have a tech touch experience, you need to have touches throughout the customer journey where they can at least get support, or you can measure their health somehow.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. No, there's, I think, and like, start with things you know work. Sometimes try to do everything at once. Start with a few things that you know will work, or you have experience of doing manually or previously and so on, and get them going, and then you can add things from there as well. Great. Another part of scaling is, of course, the organization as well. And that, of course, depends where you are, if you're small, big, medium, or enterprise and so on. But what kind of roles do you see within a customer success organization? And when do you specialize? I know it's a big open question, but let's see. I think it's interesting, and I think we could talk around that a little bit.
Yeah, I think the biggest missed opportunity in customer success is not having someone dedicated to customer operations. So right now I'm working with a client and I am constantly having to squeeze in customer requests because customer success requests, because this person is dedicated to sales. And it's always interesting to me that a sales team gets to have a dedicated sales operations person because they would never expect a salesperson to implement a CRM, but they expect a CSM who's never implemented a platform to do the back end work. And then the executive team wonders, why did this project fail? And they blame it on the human when it has nothing to do with that person. It's wrong expectations. And so that's what I would urge everyone. Hire someone who is technical, can think operationally, and put in technology in place to help your team scale. They can also do things like training, looking at the big picture. They can really be the right-hand person to the leader, because if you don't want your leader to be in the weeds, you need to enable that person by giving them an operational person, just like your CRO, your VP of sales, they always have a sales ops person. Well, you should too. And if you are telling me you don't have the budget, there are plenty of consultants out there to help you.
Yeah. I think that's great. Where do you think, I fully agree. And I think this is a struggle for a lot of companies. And as you say, sales, you usually, sales get all the tools, they get all the operational help, and you sort of like throw resources at sales. But as soon as customer success asks for investing in a platform and asking for investing in consultancy or training or specialist roles, there's usually a little bit pushback from management, I think, in a much bigger way than it is for sales, in the same asking for the same investment. But where would you say, like, when should you definitely have an operations CS operations person in ARR, for instance? Is it like what size should you be?
You know what, I'm not sure it's ARR. I would say one of the companies I was working with was under $1 million. So Series A, under $1 million, 1 CSM, and then 5 salespeople. If you have that many salespeople with a full-time sales ops person, I would say at least dedicate 20% of that person's time to customer success. And with me working with that person, we were able to have a more seamless experience for the customer. And suddenly even the handoff was faster, the implementation went faster, everything was being tracked suddenly in the customer's experience, health score was being implemented, those kind of things. If you have $1 million in revenue, you should be dedicating at least 20% of that sales ops person to customer success. That's 1 day a week where they're helping scale, especially if you can't hire another person till you're at 2.5, 3 million in ARR. You better be enabling that CSM with technology to scale.
I think that's spot on. I think a lot of when we talk to customer success teams, they get stuck in a lot of administration, and that's time taken away from them talking to customers, basically driving improvements, doing things. So but management tends to like not look at that. So I think it's like an important part here is to bring that up to the table and say, I've been mapping out my time last couple of weeks, and I spend 30% of my time doing administration, updating things, checking in different areas for customer data and so on. I think it's a really important step to get more out of customer success, is to have the operations working really, and not putting that out on all the CSMs, because then you take time away from customers basically.
Exactly.
Great. We also want to talk, an important topic I think in these times as well, is to look a little bit, how do we in customer success now, if we are leaders, we are looking after, we have a team, we might have a situation where we are struggling with, this a tough market out there and customers are churning on us, and we have probably the team also working remotely. Maybe that's always the case, but for a lot of people I know, this is a new scenario as well. So like from a leadership point of view, how should we act in these days?
Yeah, I would say the number one way that I think you can be more successful is to lead with empathy. And what that means is putting yourself outside of your shoes and understanding your team. Yesterday, I was listening to a news report, and they, in the United States, did this big survey. Kaiser Healthcare, one of the big healthcare companies here, did a study, and they said right now 1 in 3 people in the United States is seeking mental health, and 1 in 10 is contemplating suicide. And so with those kind of stats, you as a leader have no idea what is happening behind that Zoom screen. So leading with empathy, especially if you're a leader maybe who doesn't have children, have empathy for the people who do have children. They're juggling many things. I have 3 children of my own. Yes. 2 of them are on Zoom all day. So you want to lead with empathy. I cannot stress that enough. I think your employees will pay you and your customers back tenfold, because it's those small acts of noticing that maybe something's wrong that will help them with encouragement. The other thing I would say is work with your team to come up with a strategy on how can you support your customers during their own COVID challenges. And a company who I think did this really well is HubSpot. They, in March, right away had a campaign out there for all of their customers to continue using their product in a way where they wouldn't lose all their data. And they gave them a little break. I forget exactly what it was, but it was a great way to show their customers quickly that, hey, we know as a small business, you're going through a difficult time. We're here to support you. And then they put out all these resources. So I do believe your customers will remember those small things, whether you have more office hours, more resources that are available, maybe a 30-day pause before they have to pay you. There are many different ways that you can help your customers without having a huge impact on your own bottom line. So I would say those are the 2 ways to think outside the box. 1, help your employees get through this difficult time, and 2, help your customers as well.
Yeah. No, I fully agree, and I think the difficult part when you're behind webinar or web meetings all the time is to catch people when they're between customer calls, and it's when you used to be able to go into the office and chat with them and get the sense of the environment and the feeling in the room, that part is harder now. So it's more like you probably need to find time to not only have business discussion calls and have more social calls, but that's a little bit getting used to and with your team. I don't know, have you heard any good examples there of working remotely, more relaxed remotely working together with your team? Or
Yeah, so I have two ideas for the audience out there. Is one, do more walk and talks where you invite your team to get on calls. You don't have to have your camera on. One of the people one of my clients that I'm working with, we do walk and talks, and he wants his camera on. I'm like, I'm not turning mine on while I'm going for a hike, but you can. So we kind of walk and talks, and I love
yeah,
them, and it's good for your health, good for your mental well-being, and you can still get business done. So I highly
yeah,
recommend that. And then the
that's
other one that I love is my husband's company. They had a drawing night. They hired an artist, and they sent all of the employees drawing material. So like a beautiful book to draw in, and then some crayons.
yeah,
And so this artist took them through how to draw a scene from, in America, The Lion King is this big, ridiculous,
yeah,
I don't know, show. I haven't watched it, but my
yeah.
children apparently love it. So uh, they, they had a drawing night, and my kids got to join. All the families who wanted to draw were able
Yeah,
to draw as well. And it's just a nice way to relax with your team, have fun, and still be safe given it's COVID.
yeah. So that was a great idea. So they shared. Everybody had to show what they draw. Or
Exactly. It was hilarious.
that's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Super. I think we're actually out of time. I think we covered all the topics. Of course, you can go super deep on all these, but I think we got a lot of good stuff out of it. So I would like to thank you, Emilia. It was great having you as a guest, and I hope to see you soon over the web or in person, maybe hopefully soon as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.